Okay. We apologize for the technical difficulties. The class is not going to be live. That's okay. So thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. This class is in the merit of all the Jewish people, especially those in the land of Israel, those who need healing, rescuing, success. God should give them everything that they need. Okay. So this week's Torah portion is Parshas Vayakel. Vayakel means to gather. It is usually together with the Parsha that's next week, Parshas Pekudei. And these parshas talk about and sort of repeat what happened in Parshas Teruma and Tetzava just a couple weeks ago, which is the command in Parshas Teruma and Tetzava is the commandment to make the tabernacle, the Mishkan, in the desert. In Parshas Vayakel and Pekudei is the actual commandment, construction of the tabernacle. And obviously, every single word in the Torah is precious. And the Torah felt it and compelled to tell us of the actual construction of the tabernacle, not just the mitzvah, but the actual repeats the entire thing and the entire construction process. So we're going to discuss the people who actually constructed the tabernacle, which is found in this week's Torah portion. We have in Exodus chapter 35, Moses said to the Jewish people, "See, God has called by name Betzalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah." Now, Hur was the son of Miriam, which means that Betzalel is the great nephew of Moses. So, obviously, Betzalel, a very important person. He's from the tribe of Judah. He's Miriam's grandson. He's Moses' great nephew, and God explains why He chose Betzalel. And again, continuing in the chapter 35, He has imbued him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, with insight, with knowledge, with talent for all manner of craftsmanship, to do master weaving, to work with gold, silver, and copper, with the craft of stones for setting, and with the craft of wood, to work with every kind of creative labor. Okay. So Betzalel is the master of every single thing that has to be done in the Mishkan. And then God gave him another talent. What talent? Teaching. Right? That's the expression, those who can't do, teach. Here, God gave him the ability to do and to teach. It's a separate talent. He put into his heart an ability to teach, both him and Aholiav, the son of Achisamach of the tribe of Dan. So another person, his name was Aholiav. Now, Aholiav was from the tribe of Dan. Tribe of Dan is not as important necessarily. I shouldn't say not as important. We'll see. We'll talk about that in a second. But not as great of a lineage. Dan was one of the tribes, so we'll see in a second. I'll actually read to you what Rashi explains. Rashi explains as follows. He was from the tribe of Dan, the lowliest of the tribes, one of the sons of Jacob's maidservants, and God elevated him to the status of Betzalel, from one of the greatest tribes, to fulfill what it says, the nobleman is not recognized over the poor. So Rashi explains that actually Dan was one of the least important, least recognizable, the lowliest of the tribes, and nonetheless, God made Aholiav the same level as Betzalel. He put him on the same platform. And actually, in the commentary on the Medrash, in the Eitz Yosef, in Medrash Tanchuma, Rashi explains that Dan only had one son. And why was he the lowliest of all meaning there were 4 tribes total from the quote unquote maidservants of Jacob, meaning not the children of Rachel and Leah. So what was unique about Dan specifically? Because Dan only had one son. His name was Chushim. So therefore, since he only had one son, therefore he was considered the lowliest of the tribes. So the Rebbe asks a very interesting question about this Rashi. The Rebbe asks, number one, the Rebbe had a very unique way of understanding Rashi. I think we might have discussed in previous classes, but essentially the Rebbe's view of Rashi is that Rashi explains that he is there to explain the simple meaning of the verse, the way a 5-year-old child, when he starts to study Chumash, when he starts to study the Torah, that even the child can understand. At the same time, there is depth to that as well. So let's see what is bothering Rashi that he felt compelled to explain that Aholiav was from Dan, the tribe of Dan, and was from the lowliest of the tribes. So first of all, the first thing is, why does Rashi have to say? Rashi, first of all, why does he have to explain this at all? He could have just let no comment. What compelled him to comment at all? Number one, and number two, what compelled him to comment that this fulfills the verse that the nobleman is not recognized over the poor. So obviously we know that they were working together. Betzalel was obviously the one in charge. He was given the job. Ahaliav was given the job to assist. Eliyav was given the job to assist Betzalel. So we understand there is some sort of hierarchy, but here Rashi is saying no, there is no hierarchy. So what compelled him to say that? What compelled to say that now? And furthermore, in Parsha Kisisa, in last week's Torah portion, where we were introduced to Betzalel and his assistant Ahaliav, Rashi does not comment over there. So why does Rashi comment specifically here that we see that nobody's greater than anybody, that even someone from the lowliest of the tribes could work together with Moses' great nephew, with Miriam's grandson from the tribe of Judah? Okay. So first we have to understand a difference between these previous three parshas that discuss the construction of the Mishkan, more specifically Truma Tetzava, but also Parshas Kisisa as well, discussed a few things in the tabernacle. So number one is, in the Torah portion of Parshas Kisisa, it says that with him I have placed Ahaliav. That Ahaliav was kind of given to him to help. And in this week's Torah portion in Vayakel, it says he has placed in his heart the ability to teach him and Ahaliav. So now Rashi has to comment, why is that we see that he is so in other words, in Parshas Kisisa it's implied that Ahaliav is given as a secondary. Over here is given the heart to teach him and Ahaliav, so it puts him on the same level. So that's why Rashi is commenting here. And so now the question is, so in other words, Rashi's asking, why specifically over here is Ahaliav and Betzalel put on the same level? What changed from Parsha Kisisa? So something Rashi notices that there's a difference. That over there, Ahaliav is given as an assistant, as a secondary to Betzalel. Over here, he's put on the same level. So Rashi is seeing this. What changed over here? Oh, remember, over here we're talking about the actual construction of the tabernacle versus in Parshas Teruma Tetzava, people were commanded to make the tabernacle and to make the Mishkan and to make all the things that go in it. Now, when it comes to the donations of the Mishkan, it says in the Torah in Parshas Teruma, this is how this all began, and we discussed this at the time. It says everybody brought what was in their possession. So, for example, if somebody had these colorful wool, that's what they brought. If people had gold and silver, that's what they brought. If people had stones, as we'll talk about at a later point, the only people who the leaders of the Jewish people, they wanted to wait and see what everyone else wouldn't bring, so they brought the stones. So the question is, if the whole point of the Jewish people is that the whole point of the tabernacle is to forgive the Jewish people and give them atonement for the fact that they had not behaved properly and they sinned with the golden calf, and now God left the Jewish people because of their sin, and the only way to bring it back was through giving God a special space in the Mishkan. If the rich and the poor are not equal, how could it be that, and the Jewish people are not united essentially, how could it be that this is a home for God? So in other words, the fact that we had voluntary donations, and some people, and that's where you see differences in people in the amount they could donate. There's rich and there's poor. So therefore, Rashi understood that after the fact that now all the Jewish people actually donated and they actually constructed the tabernacle, now the Torah has to tell us that actually the rich and the poor, there is no difference between the rich and the poor. They're the same level. And even somebody who's the greatest lineage, like Betzalel, who's the grandson of Miriam, the great nephew of Moses, a descendant of Yehuda, one of the most important tribes, the tribe where eventually we know that the King David is going to come from this tribe. So how could it be that this person, God is saying, yes, we there is differences. However, they're the same level as they are at the same level as even someone from the quote unquote lowliest tribe. So now we're going to go back to last week's Torah portion. And in last week's Torah portion, seemingly there's another thing that shows on the equality of the Jewish people, and maybe it would not necessitate this answer. So maybe this isn't a good enough answer. What happened in last week's Torah portion? In Parshas Kisisa, that we have a commandment to everybody should give half a shekel, and God says, the wealthy person should not give more, and the poor person should not give less. So in that context, what do we see? We see that the wealthy and the poor are the same. So seemingly, for what reason do we need to comment this? Why does Rashi comment specifically here by the story of Betzalel and Ha'aliyah, that saying that they're on their same level? And specifically here, we see that what? What do we see? That over here, we see that all Jewish people are equal. Don't we already know that from last week's Torah portion, from Parsha Kisisa? So, however, that obviously Rashi felt that was not a compelling enough answer that he had to say it specifically here. In this case of the half a shekel, there are many other mitzvahs. There are many types of mitzvahs that are given regardless of a person's financial situation. For example, when it comes to tithing, there's a mitzvah that you have to tithe your animals. Okay, so if a person is a farmer in the land of Israel, maybe even not in the land of Israel, I think it's only in the land of Israel. At any rate, they have to, every 10th animal that comes out of the pen, they hit it with a stick that has paint on it, and that's how you know which ones are the 10th. And however, if a person goes to his local rabbi and he says, "Listen, Rabbi, I'm a very poor person. I do not know I cannot afford this tithe." The rabbi is not going to say, "Oh, well, there's a dispensation here. If you're poor, you don't have to tithe." There is no such dispensation. The same thing applies if a person needs tefillin. He can't say, "Well, I can only afford 2 boxes of 2 parts of the tefillin." Right? The head tefillin is made of 4 boxes. A person can't say, "I can only afford 2." Person can't say, when it comes to the mitzvah tzitzis, there's 4 corners required. He can't say, "I only could afford 1." Right? There is equality when it comes to ritual things. So the fact that a person has equality in the fact that he has the same commandment as someone else doesn't prove that that somebody is not of greater status than the other. So therefore, Rashi felt that it wasn't compelling enough. The fact that in Parsha Kisisa that every Jew had to give the same amount of money was not compelling enough, that he felt that he had to say here that this verse that compares Betzalel and Aholiav, that verse specifically is what shows that every Jew is equal. So now we can understand why this is also in Parshas Vayakel, this idea of equality. Because as follows: since in Parshas Kisisa and in Parshas Teruma and Tetzava, these previous Parshas, specifically there seemed to be that there was a difference amongst Jewish people, that there were people of means, there were people who were able to serve God perhaps by giving certain things. Some people gave gold and silver, and some people could give wood. So seemingly there was a difference, but specifically here, Rashi feels that it's important when it comes to the actual construction of the tabernacle that there is no difference amongst Jews. Now, when it comes to the actual, let's go back. So what about the donations? Seemingly, there was levels of people who could donate. Some people could donate more, some people could donate less. How does that work? So there are 2 categories that of mitzvahs that apply to every Jew. There are mitzvahs that the fulfillment of mitzvahs that everybody could do, physical mitzvahs, and then it comes to the intention and the spirituality behind mitzvahs, the love of God, the fear of God. And in the love and fear of God, obviously there are levels. And to emphasize this point, we're going to quote a portion of the Tanya chapter 44 The Tanya is the magnum opus of Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the Alter Rebbe, the founder of the Chabad movement. If you want to learn more about him, we have a video that we did in our Tuesday classes, which we will resume, God willing, soon. We discussed his life and his work. We have our Tuesday class where we discuss every week. We discuss different important Jewish personalities. So he says as follows in Tanya chapter 44. Therefore, awe and love are called the secret things known to God, for people cannot know the varying degrees of love harbored in the hearts of others, while the Torah and mitzvahs are those things that are revealed to us and to our children to do. So they are found in all Jews equally, for we have all one Torah and one law insofar as the fulfillment of all the Torah and mitzvahs and actual performance is concerned. All Jews perform mitzvahs in the very same manner. The greatest Jew and the smallest Jew both put on the same tefillin. It is otherwise with awe and love, which vary according to the knowledge of God in the mind and the heart. Here Jews are not equal. He whose knowledge of godliness is greater will experience the love and awe of God to a greater degree than his less knowledgeable colleague. So we see that when it comes to love and fear of God, not everybody is the same. So we see that there are varying degrees, but not when it comes to the ritual practices. When it comes to, yes, there are some people are smarter, so therefore they could have greater love of God because they understand God better. They understand godliness better, I should say. There are people who could fear God more because they have better emotional capacity. Whatever it may be, however, when it comes to practical mitzvahs, every Jew has the same obligations. So how do we balance these two ideas? How do we balance, on the one hand, that everybody is equal, that everybody is valued, no matter your lineage, no matter your social status, and how do we balance that with the fact that there are differences not in the practical way we serve God, not in the rituals, but in the meaning and intention and spirituality behind it. So the ultimate goal is to bring unity even into this realm, even into the hearts of the Jewish people, as follows. And this is actually reflected in the tabernacle itself. That when it comes to the tabernacle, we had materials that were donated by people of all stripes, first based on their financial ability, but it was carried out. Who were the people who carried out this construction? There was no difference, and this is why specifically in this week's Torah portion, that when we're quoting the story of Betzalel and Ahaliav, it's Moses' command. It's not God's command to Moses, it's Moses' command to the Jewish people, because Moses' job is to bring this idea and bring it to the Jewish people. When it comes as far as God is concerned, it doesn't really matter, because God knows everybody's equal. God doesn't need to tell Moses, the Jewish people are equal. I'm telling you. Of course, God knows that. But Moses is teaching this to the Jewish people. He's saying Ahaliav and Betzalel, there's no difference. So in other words, when it comes to whether or not, how do we view people? Are people all equal, or is there some sort of meritocracy? Which one is it? And the answer is it's both. That we're supposed to take all our combined talents where we are different, and we use it in unison. We use it together. We use it to build a house of God. And in that, we are all equal. Thank you very much for joining. I apologize again for the technical difficulties in the lack of streaming. God willing, we'll get back to that when we fix the internet here. If you like this video, please leave a like. You could subscribe. I think we're on 99 subscribers on our YouTube channel, so you could be the 100th. We would appreciate that. We could even get to 101. That would be even better. If you have any comments, please put in the comment section. We like to hear feedback, and we will try to get to your questions and comments. And God willing, we'll see you next week.